Hey everybody, it's me, Jesse, and we're going to work with some React today and AWS Amplify for the backend. We're using GraphQL, and for the UI, we're using Material UI. This is a continuation of a project that we started in the last stream. So if you want to watch the first stream, you can do that. It's on my YouTube channel. It should be the last video that's up. The title of it would be React, Amplify, and GraphQL. This is React, Amplify, and GraphQL Part 2. All right, so I'm right in the middle of working on a form. So let me show you, let me make some space here on my screen so I can show you what we're working on today. All right, so this is the form. Right now, we have this image uploader working. That's what we worked on in the previous video. We have these two fields, they're just text fields, working. I have a zip code lookup working, and when you put in the zip code, it populates this field, these options here in a select. And then when you select, it shows up here. You can see the styling is not great, but this is not a public facing web app. This web app, you have to log into, you have to have an account. It's an admin panel, and right now it's only going to be used internally. So that buys us some time that we don't really need to make the styles look exactly right for this app right now. So for this stream, I'm more worried about the functionality of this form. Later on, we can make it look a little bit better. But to be honest, Material UI, the default styles for Material UI are pretty sweet. So even without me trying, it's already looking pretty nice. You know, we have the correct shadows for material design. We have some nice styles on the form elements. So it's not bad. We also have these date inputs working. So these are pretty sweet. Go in here, it has nice material design style date inputs. So in the stream today, what we need to do for this one is we need to move the state for these up one level. So let me show you what I mean. Each one of these boxes here, each one of these cards is its own component. When we eventually save the changes and submit the form, we need to have all the values for all of these. Okay, so those values need to live in a central location. That central location is the parent component that houses all of these. So right now, when I was working on this, just for speed, I left everything as local state. But right now, I need to move it all up and pass the state down to this component. All right, so we're going to do that. As we do it, it'll give you all a chance to see what, how we implemented this and how to pass down state. So the state would be a value and also the function to change the state. So there's two things that we need to pass down. And so on I'm going to be moving these screens around frequently. So hopefully that's not too confusing. I'm going to make the font a little bit larger. And for now, I'm just going to show mostly the code because we don't need to look at the UI right now. We need the logic. Okay. This project was built with Create React App. So on the right-hand side, we have the child component, which is that form, this middle card here. And on the left-hand side, we're going to have the parent component, which is called Create Add Set. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of cleanup that can happen here. I'm not worried about that right now. Usually my strategy is when I'm in creative mode, when I'm working on something new, I just do it. I try to get the functionality in as fast as possible, then we can clean up. I find that if I spend too much time cleaning up, I lose my train of thought and I get sidetracked, right? So I can work faster if I just go through and not worry so much about cleanup. I have cleaned up this behavior component just a little bit before the stream, but you can see I still have some additional features that we have the UI built for, but we don't really need the functionality right now. And first thing we're going to do is look at all our state values here at the top. So we have this loading indicator. We're going to keep the loading indicator because that can stay local state. Selected communities. Selected communities, we need to move up. All right, so that's our select field here. So we need these values. We need to know what communities are being selected. And to be honest, we need to change how this selected communities works. Let me so I noticed a flaw in my logic here. So we need to fix that before anything. So the flaw in the logic is this. Right now I'm saving the name of the community, but what I need to be able to correctly get a community from the back end is the ID of the community, right? Because the name might not be unique. Two communities could have the same name, but no two communities will have the same ID, right? So we need the unique ID, but I also need the name to display it properly. So we need to change this. This right now is a string, right? So we're using TypeScript. So this is an array of strings. We need it to be an array of objects. Okay, so for now, since like I said, I'm working kind of sloppy to start with, right? I'm just going to put any. I don't recommend leaving it like that. All right, what we should do actually is create maybe a type or an interface. For the sake of being correct, I'll do the interface if I can remember what the syntax is for interface. And we would have like, let me see, name is a string. I think I need a name. I need to name the interface. Interface, selected community. So I'm going to name it that. And then I'm going to say ID is also a string. Okay. So like I said, normally I would just leave it as any, but, and that's probably going to bother some hardcore TypeScript people. Hey, what's up, Kirk? Yeah, Kirk says any is a good placeholder to get things started. So for the sake of the stream, I'm going to do it kind of the proper way, but I'm going to say selected community here. So now this piece of state is going to accept an array of objects. Each object is going to have a name and an ID. Okay. Now I basically just broke this form as I'm doing this. I'm going to get errors now because you can see like now I'm getting these red lines. My handle change function isn't working because I'm no longer passing the correct values. So I'm going to make sure I get the right values. So let's go down to where we actually call this function so we can pass in the right values. I'm gonna go way down here to our select. And the value of the select is going to be selected communities. Yeah, how are we going to handle this with nested? This is going to be a tricky problem. Oh, Kirk says, I use the word type for everything instead of interface. Yeah, I don't know how I got started using interface, but for some reason I started using interface instead of type. So now my default is just interface. I do use type sometimes, but I always just, my first instinct is to use interface. That's probably just what I learned first, and I don't know if there's, it could be that there's some commonly accepted practice for using types in interface that I just don't know. So if you're used to using type is perfectly acceptable, and it may even be the right way to do it. All right, so right now on change, we're passing an event and a value. How are we going to do this? We need to pass. Here we are. So the value right now is parish name. But let's see if we can pass an array for value. Let's see. A string for value, we can do a string, a number. They're not going to let us do it. Let's see if it'll let us. I know it might complain, but maybe we can just do it. So maybe I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe I don't need to do it like this. We're going to try this, but I have another idea if this doesn't work. So let's go. Name is going to be, yeah, it's definitely complaining, but name is going to be parish dot name, and ID is going to be parish dot ID. Let's save that. Oh, hey. Okay. All right, there it is. Now it's complaining. But let's see if it's only complaining because we set it up here. If the type is, it's only complaining because of this, we can change this. So set selected communities should not be this. It should be accepting a selected. Oh, I took out too much. Let's go event. We do as selected community. Can we do this? All right, let's see. Can we do that? Will that fix it? No, it's not going to. But what we can do temporarily, just to see if it works, we can do TS ignore, just so that we get rid of the TypeScript error, and see if we get another error. So this is what I was afraid of. It could be an error in the fact that Material UI has types on this, and so we can't assign this. Although what we could do, yeah. All right, so let's go back to what we had before. And let's try this a different way. This is going to be a more interesting stream than I thought. I thought it was just going to be moving state up to another component. Okay, so I still want the value to be parish name. Actually, let's do this. You know what? This is an easy fix. This is a very easy fix. We're going to change the value to parish ID because it's going to look ugly. Let's see this, where I have this interface. Let's just comment out this interface in case we need it. at some point. And let's change this back to string. All right, now we'll look back here. Now, see, this is why it's going to be ugly. Because when I click here now, and I select something, whoops, I broke it. All right, something worked here. So instead of the name of the parish, Sacred Heart, now it has the name all together and then hyphenated with the city. So it's just going to look a little ugly. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, it's not a big deal because this is for the back end. So at some point when we need to make it look pretty, we can figure that out. But for now, we don't need to figure that out. Okay. So this is just supposed to be an MVP, and we have to have it completed by, I believe, next Wednesday. So that's why I'm skipping so many things that potentially we might want to add later on. So now here's the thing. We have in selected communities an array of strings. Each one is an ID. Let's make sure handle change. Just want to make sure I got everything right and I didn't leave anything out. Parish ID, value parish ID. Index of, there we go. Parish, I gotta do parish ID. That's it. I knew there was something because the checkboxes weren't working. There we are. Okay, now the checkboxes are working and we can see all the names here. These were just left over from before. If I did like a complete refresh, these would go away. Okay. All right. So that was a little unnecessary detour. Well, I guess it was necessary because we did need to change this to an ID. So the first solution was more complex and it didn't work. Second thing I came up with was a lot easier and it will work. So now we have the IDs, which is what we need when we eventually go to push this data up to the server. So we actually need we need to set, I don't think we need to move the handle change up. I think all we need to move is the selected communities up. So I'm just going to copy this for right now so we don't break things. And create ad set has quite a lot of logic right now. I'm going to go up to the top. I was thinking about going to the bottom. I think I'm just going to go to the top here. And we already have that first form. This is all the data for the first form. So let's go right underneath that where we have the data. I'm going to make a bunch of space. Like I said, we can clean this up later. And for now, we're going to have this selected communities. And actually, this isn't a TypeScript file. Let's make it a TypeScript file and hope nothing breaks. So to make it a TypeScript file, all we have to do is change it, the extension from .js to .tsx. Now it messes up our server because it's looking for the file and it can't find it, right? Because it no longer has the correct file extension. So let's stop our server and restart it. So stop the server, restart it. I'm just going to run yarn start. That'll start back up. I'm going to stop this one. All right. While that's starting back up, I'm going to look at the questions. So Kirk says, what's your opinion on file sizes? I feel like most JavaScript devs keep their files super small, but yours are like not tiny. That's my preference though. Yeah, when I'm first working, I like everything in one file because I don't have to keep switching files. When I'm refactoring, I prefer to make my files smaller on refactor. But for now, they look a mess. When I'm working, it's a mess. It's kind of like when you clean your house or when you decide to clean a room. in the middle of cleaning it, if somebody were to walk in, it probably looks a mess because you have all kind of stuff out. You're like organizing everything. The end result is going to look nice and clean. But if you tried to constantly clean up while you were working, it would be a mess. Uh, no, it would not be a mess. It would take a long time. That's what it would do. It would take a long time and you get sidetracked. So a little bit of cleanup is good, but when you clean up too much, I feel like it's not productive. Okay, so we do have some TypeScript errors, which was to be expected. So basically we have some missing, let me make this bigger, you can see. We have some missing props. So what we can do is anywhere that we have a missing prop, we can just put the prop in and set it to false. Because if it's missing, it's defaulting to false. So it won't break anything. And it'll fix the TypeScript error. So line 20, what does it say? Line 28 in create add set index. Oh, yep, there we are. Divider vertical, and what do we want? Is more space around. So this happens when you have a project like this that was the UI components were all built without TypeScript, and now I'm gradually moving it over to TypeScript. You tend to find a lot of these errors. Because it'll work if you're just using JavaScript. Let's see. All right, and now we have some types here. For this kind of error, 235. Oh, 235. So 135. 235. For this kind of error, since we're not worried about, we're not refactoring for type correctness right now, I'm just going to do a TS ignore. See? And that goes away. Now, this is when you go into refactor, every place you see TS ignore, you know, okay, I need to get the right types on this. Let's save that and go on to the next error. Hey, that was it. No more errors. Awesome. That was actually easier than I thought. I thought this is a large file. I thought we were going to have more errors. All right. So now that we have this selected community set and set selected communities, well, let's do this. Let's first move all the state that we need up here. Then we'll make an interface here, and then we can actually pass these props down. All right, do we need zip code? We don't need zip code. We're not going to send that in. We don't need this communities list. This is just local state. This is how we're actually getting all the data. When we do the search, we're actually getting more data than we need right now. So this is a good spot to refactor at some point to try to cut down the amount of data we're getting. This is coming from a Lambda function on AWS. So that would be more of a back-end thing because this we are normally using GraphQL elsewhere. But for this, it's like a particular Lambda function that we're using. So I may not be able to use like the normal GraphQL stuff that I would normally use. I could for this one, for the list all community. So in a future stream, we probably will be refactoring this, but since so few people are going to use it, I'm not worried about the fact that we're getting too much data. If this was a normal app, I would want to get the least amount of data possible to save people's data plans and save costs on the server. All right, so we do need the from date and the to date. And we're going to have to move some imports as well. So no, actually we won't, because we're just using new date. So I think we're good. That's awesome. I thought we were going to have to move our date FNS import, but we're just using the normal date function in JavaScript. Cool. I think this is it. This is all we'll need to move. So now let's make an interface. This is a TypeScript thing. It's going to let us know what props this component accepts and what type are those props. And again, you could probably use type here instead of interface. I don't know why I use interface. It's just what I'm used to. I prefer to say, behavior form. I like to call it whatever my component is. So the name of the component is behavior form, and then I just add props to the end, and I use capital letters. What is that called? Pascal case when you capitalize the first one, and then each one after. I think that's right. So that's what we're gonna do. Wait, no equals sign. All right, so we're gonna need selected communities. Selected communities, and that is a string. And then we'll need set selected. And that is a function. I think we can do this. And that should work for now. I'm not sure if that's the correct way to do it. So we may have to change that later because TypeScript will yell at us. But for now, I think it's okay. Oh, Kirk says, I didn't know you could do that, the TS ignore comment. Yeah, I don't think using TS ignore everywhere is not a good idea because then you're not really using TypeScript. But it's very good if you find something that's really hard to type or you're not sure how to type it and you just need to keep working, then TS ignore is the way to go. Then we need selected from date as a string. Set selected from dates. And basically, what I think I'm doing here in TypeScript is saying this is a function that returns void. Okay, it returns nothing. But it lets TypeScript know that it should expect a function. Also, I'm not sure on the audio if you can hear. I have people working on my roof right now, so there may be some noise in the background, and I can't do anything about that because they're working on the roof, which I need them to because the roof was leaking. So I just have to deal with the noise. I am in my basement right now, so hopefully, since the noise has to travel through a couple of floors in my house, it won't be too bad. Oops, and I messed this up. It's not set selected, it's handle. And I got a message from the Material UI on Twitter asking whether I was using version 5. I'm not. I'm using version 4 right now, but I might switch to version 5 because, like, why not use the new stuff if I can, especially on an internal project. I kind of like, trying out new things. So we might switch. So that might be a future stream. But I got to make my deadline first. So if I do that, it'll probably be at least a week from now. All right, now we're going to put in the props. So what I'm going to do to save time is just copy this, paste it, and I'm going to change these colons to commas, get rid of the strings, get rid of the voids. There we are. So now we're passing these in as props. No value exists for scopes for the property section. And whoops, I messed that up. And here we're going to put behavior. Do I need to do it like this? Do I need to put a colon? There we go. I need to put a colon. Behavior form props. Save that. And let's see. So we're getting duplicate identifiers because we already have these down here. But now that we have this, we can delete this. We can delete the dates. Okay. So now we actually need to pass these values in. We're saving both files, and we should be getting some error down here saying we're not passing in what we need to. So we can see here, behavior form is saying you're missing the following props. So you can see all our props here that we just put in. So TypeScript's telling us to do it. So let's add these types in. And let me just copy. We're going to copy and paste this to make it a little easier. We'll change all these to equal signs. And then we'll put brackets in. And we're going to just pass in the same things here. And let's see. Let's see if it'll let me do it like this. No, once the expected type when it comes to properties, the type is intrinsic. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. I believe. Let's see if that'll work. Maybe. Expected one argument because there we are. I think that's what we need to do. Selected from date. Selected to date. So you see, moving this up to another component is not difficult. It can be a bit tedious though. I shouldn't say it's not difficult yet because we haven't got it working yet. Once we get it working, then we can determine how difficult it was. And one more. I'm getting a lot of red lines, so I'm assuming I'm doing something wrong. Let's see what we're doing wrong. Type date is not assignable to type string. Where did it get the type date from? Do we have type date? Maybe it's date in one place and string in another. Where did I put this at? Oh, okay. It's automatically giving us the type of date. So let's see. So TypeScript is inferring the type of date since we have date here. And I think I didn't put handle to change. Handle to date change. So let's change this to be type date. Maybe, yeah. Let's see if this fixes it. Normally you don't use capitalized values, but it looks like that did fix it. Let's see what the problem is here. Void. Okay, we need to change this to, wow. Does that work? Let's see if that works. Yep, that works. We need to say we're giving it a value. Oops. So that should fix those. And then we have one more to fix. Type string. Oops. There we are. When we put those brackets there, it's not a string. It's an array of strings. So that gives us an array of strings. So now we're good. We got rid of all the red lines. So TypeScript is very helpful, right? Like if I would have tried to do this without TypeScript, it would have taken me a lot longer to troubleshoot what I had done wrong, right? Because I wouldn't even have known it was the wrong type. And potentially whenever we try to put in values, it maybe wouldn't have worked. Now, in this case, it would have worked because I've already got it working once. But there are a lot of cases where TypeScript can really help you troubleshoot a lot faster. Let's see. We have an error here. Cannot find name, handle from date change. Why can't I find that? Did I put the wrong one in? Because it's not selected, is it? It's handle. Where did I mess up the name? Selected to date, handle to date change. Oh, okay. I need to take out the word selected. I thought that was a little bit repetitive when I put that in, so I'm actually kind of glad that we're taking that out. All right, let's save that. And down here, let's change this. Handle from date. There we are. Save that. Handle from date change. Why can't we find? Handle from date. I think I just have it wrong down here. Yep, it's not date change. It is handle from date. And it's not to date change. So I had that wrong to begin with. So I don't even know how it was working before. Hey, but look at that. Now, what we should be able to do is change this date. And let's get our, let's see our component here. So create add set. Dismiss that. Let me make this bigger so y'all can see. And then I'm also going to move my picture here to the other side so that you can see. We have create add set. Come on, dismiss. Why am I getting these errors? Let me do a refresh and see if I get rid of those errors. There we go. Create add set. So in create add set, we should be able to see some of these values. So the easiest one to test is going to be this date. Let's test the date. Here we are. See the date change. I don't know if you could see that, but we have these date values. We had default dates, and the default just changed. So I selected May 27th, and now it changed to May 27th. Let's also test this. So I'm going to put in the zip code of my hometown. When you put it, I have it set that when there you enter 5 characters. Oh, we got an error. Where's our error? Let's check it out. Let's check out our network error. Did we really get an error? Yep, we got null. Interesting. All right, let's do it again. We got null again. What is the error? Okay, so we got some data. All right, this is a good chance for us to get rid of some of the data that we don't need. So what's happening? Let's see what's happening. So we're making 2 calls here. Really, we don't need to make 2 calls. We should be able to do this in 1 call, which is why I mentioned at the beginning that we could probably refactor this. We're making a call to this get parish info query, which is a Lambda function. Then we're also making a call to this list all communities query. List all communities is the one that I think we should be using, but it's actually turning, Yeah, I think we can get them all, but it's giving us an error right now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna comment this out, and I think that should solve our problem. And I'm gonna comment this out. Whoops. Yeah, that worked. Let me double check. So eventually, in this app, we have two different types of communities. We have parishes and we have groups. Right now, for the MVP, I'm just enabling a search for parishes, and you can assign an ad set to multiple parishes. So that's why I'm taking this out right now. So we're gonna save this. Good, no errors. Now let's try our search again. And that time it worked. So here we are. Let's select a few of these. Now we should see our selections come up in our profiler or for our component. Yep, and you can see we have in the state here, we now have an array of strings. Those are the IDs for all of the parishes. Okay. So that works, right? So we successfully moved all our state from this component up to the parent component that contains all three of these. Cool. That works. I was not sure if I would get all that done. Basically, I had 1 hour to do this because I have a meeting at 2 Eastern time. So I got it done with time to spare. So cool. Kirk says this is a cool project. Yeah, there's a lot to it. So this is the admin panel. There's also an app, iOS and Android app, and a web app, all built with React Native. And then we have this admin panel that is built with React. Currently, we don't have any ads in the app, but we need to get ads in the app. Otherwise, we'll never make money off of the app. So we need to have ads, and we don't want to just display any ads. We certainly could have just gone with like some ad provider, but we really want to have ads that are local to the community. So when you see an ad, it'll be for a local business that has some connection to the local community. So I think, at least in my mind, I think that'll provide a lot more value and a more of a sense of a community. So that's how we're going with the ads. I think it's the harder way to go, but in the long run, I think it will be better for the community that uses the app. But we'll see how it goes. We're going to enable the ability to do apps that aren't connected to anyone or ads that aren't connected to any one community. That'll come later, and maybe we'll do that on a stream as well. But for now, this is what we're doing. So I guess we could probably take the next, I don't know, 10 minutes. I want to start something new, but realistically, I probably shouldn't because I'll never finish it before my meeting. So I guess what I'll do right now is let's commit this before I forget and lose what I've done. Where's my code? There it is. I'm going to move myself back over to this side. And we're going to do a git commit. So especially for anybody who's new and might not be familiar with Git, here's how I do it. I always do a git status to make sure what files have changed. So this is showing up as a new file because we changed the extension to it. So to Git, it treats it as a new file. So that .tsx that's correct. That's what we want to see. We also changed these two files. Well, we deleted this file because remember in the logic of Git, we've deleted the file that was named index.js and we've created a file called index.tsx. That's how it handles it. And then we also changed this file. I always like to do a git status first, just to make sure I'm only committing the things I want to commit and I didn't like accidentally change a different file. Now that I've verified it, I'm going to do a git add. Then I'm going to do a git commit. I'm going to put the M flag there so that we can put a message right here in line. And I use feat for feature, just we've added a new feature. And this is going to be let's see, control. It's kind of arguable whether or not this is a new feature. From my perspective, I guess it is. Behavior. Almost spelled it the English way. All right, control behavior component from create ad set component. That's not bad. That's pretty descriptive of what we did. Then I'm gonna do a git push origin, and the name of this branch is create ad set. So it's gonna push that up to GitHub. All right, now it's always important to push frequently, and push up small changes frequently to GitHub. That way, if anybody else is working, that way, number one, you won't lose what you've done in case something happens and you accidentally revert what you've done locally. You can always pull from GitHub. Also, if anybody else is working on the project, you will minimize the chance of merge conflicts if you frequently push your changes. That way, they can pull your changes frequently, and everybody is up to date. So I've done that. Now I'm going to answer any questions that you might have for the next few minutes. And if there are no questions, then I'm just going to end the stream and have a few minutes to chill before my meeting. Let me see. Kirk's in here. Let's see. So he says React Native really doesn't work in the browser yet, right? Actually, React Native does work in the browser if you use React Native Web, which is what we're using. I'm considering switching, though, to just use React because I think I work for a small startup. We only have a few engineers at this point. I think it will be easier to recruit engineers who know how to work on React as opposed to people who know how to use React Native on the web. There's only a small number, compared to the whole React ecosystem, there's only a small number of people who have experience working with React Native on the web. I've been working on it for a couple of years now because I just thought it was really cool when it came out, so I started using it. But it's really was kind of a novelty. Now it is actually starting to be used more. So we may or may not continue to use it on the web. It just depends on who we're able to recruit for engineering. But it does actually work on the web. And Kirk says local business ads are nice. Yeah, I think it'll be kind of a interesting way to approach ads for an app. But like I said, I mean, it's we won't really know until we get it up and running if users prefer that, if they like that about it. But I think they will. I think it'll be cool for them to see ads for businesses that are run by people that they know, businesses that they can go to in their local community, as opposed to just some random ad for an app game. I don't know about you, but the random ads that come up in apps usually are like for app games that are not the highest quality, and the ads tend to be misleading. If you actually download the game, it doesn't work like it really does in the ad. So I don't want to cheapen the experience for the users by putting in potentially misleading ads or ads for products that they might not want. So I think this is a much better way to go. Although, yes, it's probably more work. I had a couple of comments on the English way to spell behavior. So for now, our target audience is the United States and Spanish-speaking countries. So we will be using the American spelling for our English content. And then we also have in the app some content for our Filipino audience. We have quite a few users from the Philippines, and we're starting to pick up quite a few users in Spanish-speaking countries, primarily right now Mexico, but we'd love to get into South America, Central America as well. David Grant says, what are we making? What have we made? So in this particular stream, we were working on just a form, but overall it's an admin panel that will allow us to create advertisements for a larger app. Michael says, "Hey, how's it going, Michael?" Says, "Why do you use the terminal for Git pushes and not one of the Git VS Code extensions?" Because I learned Git on the terminal, so I got time. I can tell you the story. So I watched a YouTube video on how to learn Git years ago, when I was a baby coder, and the YouTuber made some comment jokingly that real programmers use Git command line. They use the terminal. And I could tell that it was kind of a joke, but I also was really wanted to be a real programmer. So I vowed to myself that I would learn it on the terminal and I would use it on the terminal. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with that statement. I've worked with very, very good programmers who only use UI interfaces, graphical user interfaces for Git. So as long as it works, I'm cool with it. But since I learned in the terminal, I just always use the terminal. Although I think it would be cool to learn how to do it with VS Code built-in stuff. I almost always find myself up against some tight deadline, and it doesn't leave a lot of time for trying out new things. So maybe if my work ever slows down, I can attempt to learn other ways that might be easier. But anyway, that was a good question. But I would say this, if you're learning Git, you can definitely learn either through the terminal or through a graphical user interface. The only benefit you have with the terminal is that's going to stay the same no matter what. If you learn, let's say you learn on VS Code, and let's say for some reason VS Code, let's say Microsoft decides, we're not going to support VS Code anymore. Now you have to learn a new way to do it on some other editor. It's probably going to be similar, but it's not going to be exactly the same. So I still see some benefit in knowing how to do it in the terminal just to keep it consistent. But I also don't think VS Code is going to go away anytime soon. It's one of the more popular products among programmers that Microsoft has. So I'd say you're good learning either way, and not just VS Code. I think most modern code editors have some sort of Git integration, so you don't have to use the terminal. Kirk says real coders use assembly. Yeah, if you ever hear somebody seriously say real coders do this or do that, you can just ignore what they're saying, because there are so many different ways to code, and ultimately what really matters is, can you produce products that provide value to the users? And it doesn't really matter how you code it. Now, if you do a sloppy job, your people on your team that also have to work with your code might not be happy with you. But from the user perspective, it doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you do it and it works. That's the way to go. All right. Well, I've got a meeting coming up in a few minutes, so I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks for all the comments. This was I should say, a successful stream, because not only did we accomplish what we wanted to, but we also ran into some roadblocks along the way, and we're able to work around that. So I prefer when we run into roadblocks. If I have a stream that goes well, I feel like it's not a great learning opportunity. So the roadblocks provide opportunities. And as always, the way I do things is the way I do things based on my background as a coder. It may or may not be the correct way. So if you see anything I'm doing and you think, hey, why don't you do it a different way, call me out on that. And call me out in the comments. And if you have anything to add, you're watching this later on recorded, I respond to all the comments unless they're weird, and then sometimes I don't respond. But any serious comments I will respond to within a few days usually. So to everybody watching this, have a great day. I'm going to try to stream at some point next week, hopefully if I get some time. And yeah, that's it. See y'all later.